So, Catherine, you and I had a great conversation a couple of weekends ago, and my question to you is that in that conversation, you had said something about that when you were first asked to run in January, that your first question was, "Well, I don't really know what the treasurer's office does. What is the role?" And you started digging in. My question for both of you is, what have you done to prepare to take on the role to be state treasurer, and why do you think you're qualified for the position?
And I believe we start with Elijah.
Well, I've been preparing to be I've been in finance for the last 14 years of my life, and I've managed millions and millions of dollars. And today I currently manage over $100 million of investments that are invested in NEIC guidelines, which are actually more conservative, more restrictive than the state treasurer. And my company is actually getting a better return than the state treasurer's office with more restrictive guidelines, which is quite interesting. But I think that my finance background more than qualifies me for this position, but not just that. Again, I served as the party treasurer. I was entrusted with millions of dollars from Republican organizations. The state legislature trusts me. That's why I've been endorsed by so many legislators, because I helped a lot of them through the coordinated mail campaign. And they trusted me with that money to manage it, get elected. And so I have a proven track record of stability and coming into an organization, taking a challenging problem and making it successful. I did that with my business. I did that with the state party, and if you guys give me the permission or the honor and the privilege, I will be doing that with our state treasurer. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your question, Marissa. As far as preparing for this role, I've been taking time to have conversations with our current and former treasurers to understand the legacy and the impact that they've had on behalf of our state. As far as my specific background, I have not had a finance background, but I have had oversight and stewardship role working with organizations around the country, working in as a staffer in federal government, serving in my capacity of the State Board of Education. So providing that stewardship and that oversight is what I believe is preparing me for this particular role. I would be humbly supportive and grateful for your support, and would be grateful that you would sign our petition and join us in this endeavor.
And it is time.
Am I able to make one minute or about? Yes. Look, I think obviously my opponent has done some work at the Board of Education, and I think that's important to note. But managing education and managing finance, and not just finance but investments, are two very different things. And again, you're asking to put, someone's being asked to run a $32 billion called plane, has no flight experience. I think that's a major problem, regardless of who has recommended them. And I will, people that have endorsed you are people that are not in office anymore or are going to be out the door very soon. I've been endorsed by people that are currently serving in our government, leadership of our state legislature, that are going to have to work with me if I'm elected treasurer, if you give me that privilege and honor. Thank you.
Okay, and it's time for each candidate here. So, Fred.
Yeah, a lot of responsibility for state treasurer. Amazing. Quick question. Do you know specifically what investing threats or weak areas that are currently in place, and what do you do?
Okay, losing track. So, threats to I think that from a threat standpoint, the asset mix is a pretty conservative asset mix. It's 60% in equities and 40% in bonds. And if you look at the actual equities, about 35% of it is in large market cap businesses. There's about 10% in small and 15% in medium. And one of the things that I am a little concerned about is there's quite a bit of for a state government, which is a public entity, to have that much in small and medium cap businesses. So when I get in office, if you give me the privilege of serving as your treasurer, I want to look at our asset mixes, and that's why I said I want to do an audit internally of all the asset mixes and make sure we're invested in the right, safest, most stable, high-rated assets we possibly can that don't put the principal at risk.
Thank you for the question. I think I appreciated what my opponent had to say. The role of the treasurer is obviously to ensure that we don't put our dollars at risk. And so as treasurer, I would take a look at the mix of our investments and make sure that we are not exposed, or we have vulnerabilities that would put our resources at risk.
I do want to make a little rebuttal if that's possible.
Okay.
And I really respect your answer. But one thing I just want to challenge you on is, if you don't understand investments at a large level, how are you going to be able to do that? It would be just like saying, I don't know French, I can't go look at a French textbook and tell you anything about it, or I don't know how to design a rocket ship, I couldn't tell you how a rocket ship gets into space at a detailed level. So my question is, how would you be able to do that if you don't have that experience? I do have that experience. I do it every single day that I go into my office.
Do you want to make an answer, Katherine? No? Okay. All right, let's go to the next question.